Okay, so hi everybody. Hello, people in first period and second period, MrBrock.net. Hello. So, what we're doing today is I'm going to talk to you guys about how we're setting up class from now on. And then I'm going to go over 889 to 894. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going over. I'll make sure here in a second. All right, so you've got two things on your desk. You've got a new Strayer note guide with all sorts of hilarious memes on it. Does everybody see that? This thing? I Googled what are popular memes, and I got Kermit sipping the tea. You're saying you're going to pass the AP exam without reading Strayer, but that's none of my business. And then see, the tea that he's sipping is actually Strayer. Thank you. And then over here we have, what is this, a pelican? Never read Strayer, skim Strayer at times, actually read Strayer, and then read Strayer, ask questions, and understand it. She's low. Taylor is dying over there. I love it. All right. So you hit the kids where you know it's going to work. All right. So all this is laid out on this screen here that I'm sure you can't read. But basically, what we're going to do is in class, we're going to go over a topic, and you're going to write on a PowerPoint. Okay? So today's going to be weird because you read the thing last night. Okay? But that's okay. That'll just be doubled up. All right? We're going to go over this topic. I'm going to hit all the major points on the PowerPoint. Then you're going to go home, and if you'll turn to the second page there, you'll see that you have the same kind of stuff that you had before. Now, of course, you already have this from last night because you read, okay? But here's the way this is supposed to be set up. Here's how it's going to go from here on out. You're going to take the PowerPoint notes, and you're going to open up Strayer. You're going to put the most important big deal stuff here. And it's not, I want you to copy Strayer down, or I want you to copy the PowerPoints down. It's big deal stuff, okay? Just to refresh your memory, this is something that I'm hoping will take 10 minutes, okay? Then what I would like for you to do is actually, without writing down notes, just read Strayer. Read that section, okay? So tonight, of course, you've already read it. I'd like for you to read Strayer. When you come up, if you'll turn to the next page, when you come up to a stimulus, when you come up to a picture or a map or a chart or a graph or a table, I don't want you to copy it down here. But what I would like for you to do is just jot down some important stuff about it, that you experienced that item in the text, okay? Everybody's all right with that. Notice I've cut down questions. I'm only asking for one question for class discussion, one question for clarity, and then when it's all said and done, the three most important things. And so you're going to bring in these notes the next day, and you're going to quiz over the lecture we had yesterday. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. One question, promise, will be from the stimulus in the book. Two questions will be over the big deal stuff from class. Does that fit you guys better? Yes, no? Okay. So the important thing is we're at the point now where it's kind of up to you whether or not you pass the GoPro. Sorry, I just called you my ex-girlfriend's name. It's up to you whether or not you pass the AP World exam. And so do this faithfully and you'll be fine. Everybody's cool with that? Yes. Do you guys have any questions about how this is set up? So you'll bring Strayer to class every day. So tomorrow, after we take the 3-question quiz, I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. And we're going to go over questions you had from last night, reading Strayer, stuff we need to wrap up, things you need to understand. And this next thing I'm going to say is very important, everyone out there in YouTube land. The 3-question quizzes, from here on out, every one of them will be graded. Every one of them. So if you get 1 out of 3 on a 3-question quiz, you can guarantee yourself you've lost a homework point. Okay? Now, why am I doing that? It's because over the weekend I've decided that I hate you all. JK, fam. I'm doing that because I'm trying to hold you accountable. Question.
So if we get a 2 or higher, do we get a homework point back?
There's no homework points back, but if you get 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3, you keep your homework point. 1 out of 3 or 0 out of 3, you lose a homework point. Okay? And I want to be very clear about that. Everybody's okay with that? So tonight you're just going to basically copy over your book notes. But tomorrow night, you will take notes in Strayer over what we talk about in class tomorrow. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to be kind of tied down to, whoa, infinity, wah. I'm going to be kind of tied down to my computer here, because the microphone is on it, but if I have to go over to the board, I'll talk really loud so you can hear me. Hi, you can probably see me. I don't know, maybe you can't. I wanted to show you guys another thing about social Darwinism from the last lesson we had, just to kind of make you angry, which is, this is from a textbook from 1856. Called Types of Mankind. And so here you have the cranial shapes of an Irish person. This is Irish Iberian, which is funny because Iberian means Spanish or Portuguese because the Iberian Peninsula. This is an Anglo-Teutonic. Anglo means England, but Teutonic means German. And this is Negro. And what they're trying to show you is that these different skull shapes show you how these people have evolved. And the biggest deal for you guys to know about social Darwinism is it's a way for racist people to justify being racist. Okay, that's what it is. It's that they're like, well, it's just the way it is. I'm just being realistic. That's kind of the argument. In the background, you'll see here a chimpanzee skull. You'll see they're trying to say a black person looks like this, which is kind of ridiculous. And then, of course, the perfect circular skull of a Greek. Okay, so I'm right in that we read last night 882 to 889. Is that correct? Okay, so what I would be doing right now, and I would do this if I was at home as well, is I'd be writing on the PowerPoint, okay? So, writing on the PowerPoint, and we're going to talk about the idea of China's reversal of fortune, okay? We have a question? You're missing things?
Yeah.
It's here.
Oh, no.
Great catch.
Thanks, I tried.
Okay. I thought you played sports.
No.
Okay. So reversal of fortune for China, as in they're in control and then they're not in control. So Strayer starts off by talking about a note that the Qing emperor sends to England, which says this: "We have all your things in abundance. We have no need for your barbarian products." Okay? I'm getting a weird look. Yeah, so you'll have to turn to like the second page. I put the beginning of the chapter on here.
Yeah, I didn't get past Starbucks.
Oh, you know why? Because before Toby left, she just left all the crap over there. So grab it over there. Here's one too if you don't have it. So, yeah. Knock, knock, it's rock. Hit the door, it's religion. Okay, so China has ran things since about, I don't know, the Han Dynasty, right? And now they're not the Middle Kingdom anymore. They're going to go from being completely self-reliant enough where they can just slam the door closed, right? In the Qing Dynasty with Zheng He, they just slam the doors closed. They say, hey, literally, go tear down those ships and let's build a wall. Running the show, self-reliant to, they're literally going to be hooked, right? You guys read, what are they hooked on? Opium. So let's see what leads up to this. Okay? Thank you, America, for your products. Things like potatoes, tomatoes. The natives call it corn. All of these things cause a big population boom. But Qing China is old school, and Qing China does not have an industrial revolution. Because they don't have that industrial revolution with these new food products, there's going to be a land shortage, there's going to be unemployment, there's going to be starvation. These things tend to be bad for a country. Everybody writes that down. Okay. The government, by the time we get to, let's say, 1800, Qing China has been a thing for about 200 years. And do you guys remember the Dynastic Cycle that goes? Does anyone remember that? Where down here it's the new dynasty, and they claim that the old dynasty up here has lost the mandate of heaven, right? And so they start to rise, but as they rise, they get more and more what? Corrupt. Thank you, fam. And as they become corrupt, the rich people are really going to love it, but everything else is going to stagnate. And so right at the time England really comes knocking on the door during this time period, the government is right up there about where that exits. They're getting ready to get taken over again. Okay? There's corruption. There's harassment of tax payers. One thing I would make sure I know is this taxpayers only silver. Anybody know a problem with only taking taxes in silver? Anybody want to guess a problem? Sir?
It's all based on South America.
It's all coming out of South America, okay? What about the supply of silver? Is there a huge supply of silver in China? There's a finite supply though, right? It's going to run out. And so that becomes a problem. Did you guys see the part where the Chinese government would go in and beat the taxpayers that were delinquent and, quote, blood and flesh flew in all directions? That's the name of my first album. Okay? Okay. I have no idea why this is important. I've never claimed to be the smartest AP teacher, but this shows up on AP exams. It's like a freaking iron triangle from GoPro. Yeah, I know. I just triggered a few. It's called millenarianism. Millenarianism. And the root word is millennium. Does anybody know what a millennium is? Yes.
1,000 period.
Right. So only 90s teens will know that when we changed over from 1999 to 2000, it was a new millennium. It's a new 1,000 years that we're starting. It's kind of like a decade is 10 years, or a century is 100 years. A millennium is 1,000. Does that make sense to you guys? And so you guys may be familiar with the rapper Will Smith, a.k.a. the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He put out an album in 1999 called Willennium, and of course that had the hit Getting Jiggy With It, Na 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 Na. Now, people tend to start going crazy when they feel like the century is going to change, and they start going extra crazy when they feel like the millennium is going to change. Hey, wait, Mr. Brock, this is like 1800. Why did China think the millennium was going to change? Anybody know that answer? Come on, raise your hand with the answer. The governor's not going to let me retire unless you answer. Go. They're on a different calendar. I've seen on Instagram, if you clap your hands after every word, it has emphasis. They're on a different calendar. Is that on a different calendar, girl?
Yes.
Okay. So they're on a different calendar. Yeah, it's like 5,200 or something over there. And so around 18, I think it's the 40s. Let's go to Siri. Hey Siri, when was the First Opium War? 1840s.
It happened from September 4th, 1839 to August
1839. I can deal with that.
in People's Republic of China.
All right. So 1839, around that time period, they're switching over millenniums. And they're going all sorts of crazy. Also, the government's corrupt. Also, there's lots of delicious opium everywhere. All right, so you know how that goes. All right, now, remember when we were talking about the dynasty switching, that most dynasties can call back to an ethnic group? Like, there's an ethnic group called the Qin in China. There's an ethnic group called the Han in China. And so when the dynasty in China was the Han dynasty, that meant that ethnic group was in control. Okay? It would be like in America if we had like the Southern dynasty, where the Southerners are running the country. And then we had like the New England dynasty, where the people from New England were running the country. That's how this works. And so the biggest ethnic group in China, even still today, is the Han. And guess what? There is built-in ethnic hate for the Qing dynasty, because do you guys remember that they're not Chinese? They're Manchus. They stepped over the wall. That wall that the Ming built, the Qing just goes, oh, cool. And they just stepped over. Okay? Remember, guys, walls always work. Okay. This is the Taiping Rebellion. This is when people start to learn how to type. ASDF JKL semicolon. The Taiping Rebellion. I just made a fart sound on YouTube. 1,000 subs. Okay. Oh, millennium of subs. Key concepts. All right. I think there's probably not a more interesting time in world history than China in the 1800s. I can't wait to tell you all these fun stories. The first one starts, of course, with Jesus Christ's little brother being born in China in the 1800s. His name, of course, is Hong Xiuquan. I'm not kidding when I say he went around saying, hey, everybody, you know that guy Jesus? I'm his little brother. Hey, Mom, Jesus won't put up his comic books and go to bed. I'm telling.
Didn't people ask for proof of that stuff?
Sure, he had all sorts of proof. He had documentation, I'm sure. He probably like took a pencil and like drew like little like stigmatas on his hand. I'm assuming. I'm sorry, Hong Xiu Quan. I'm sure you still have followers today. Anyway, things are going kind of nuts in China. And this guy's trying to bring Christianity to China. Okay, you can get behind that. You're a Christian. This guy's claiming that he's the second coming of Jesus, but not really. He's like his little brother. He's going to instate a new heavenly kingdom. What is a heavenly kingdom? It's communist. It's egalitarian. It has women's rights. It has universal health care. It banned foot binding. It's industrial. Oh my God, this is the Young Feminist Club with Jesus' little bro. I can get behind this guy. That was a Diet Mountain Dew, by the way, that I just cracked open. Not a Budweiser, as that would not be fair. Okay. The Taiping Rebellion is nuts. The Qing army cannot defeat Jesus' little brother and his pals. This sounds like a fun offshoot Marvel movie. And the only way they could defeat them is these local landlords lend out their armies to the Qing dynasty. My friend, there's only been one war in world history that had more casualties, and it's World War II. The Taiping Rebellion is the second deadliest war in world history. It's the deadliest civil war in world history. Okay, think about this fact. It had more deaths than World War I. Now remember, guys, if we want to talk about Eurocentrism for a second, World War I was known as the war to end all wars. And China's over here going, yeah, we already had that. There's still wars, spoiler alert. The Taiping Rebellion lasted 14 years. Who killed more people, Hitler or the Taiping Rebellion? Taiping Rebellion times like 3. Crazy? Crazy. Mr. Brock, I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. Hi, Hannah. And while I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2, there's a bunch of Chinese people in what is basically New Orleans. Why? Well, Jesus' little brother is running around China trying to enlist you in his holy army. Get the heck out of there. And that's true. The Taiping Rebellion is huge, guys. Huge. Okay, now, do you remember Potosi? Yes, Mr. Rock, Potosi was the mountain in modern-day Bolivia that had all the silver inside. The Spanish abused the Maita system in a way that led to lots of silver coming out of that mountain. Great job. Gold star. Now, here's the problem. The problem is China loves silver. They want all the silver. They like to trade with you, but they don't need your products. Why does China not need your products? Europe? Why do they want your silver but not your products? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Do people have answers to these questions? Why would China not want my British candies? My candies are way better than your stupid British candies. Why? Because we're the center of the universe, right? And so when it comes time to trade, here's England trying to trade candy for delicious Chinese candy. And China says, no, thank you. Your candy's dumb. We will, however, sell you our candy for your silver. Okay? A very big, important thing you need to write right around here is the word silver drain. And when I say drain, I mean toilet. And when I mean toilet, I mean that place you flush turds. Okay? Now, in this analogy, the turds is the silver. And you can't go down into the toilet and get the silver turds back out. They're gone. What does this do to an economy? Let's go to Mr. Brock the Economist. Error 404, file not found. Mr. Brock the Economist does not exist. Here's what I know. Silver gone and bad. Economy no work, good no more. So England is angry. Now, at the end of this chapter, we'll talk about England owning India. Have they? Yeah, they've kind of taken India in class. They own India. And up in northern India, there are some Indian dudes, shocker, they're Indians in India, in fact. And they've got all sorts of silver. They're getting silver from rich Chinese people. But how? Que está la silver? Bueno, bueno, bueno. Here's how. Dealing drugs. Legitimate heroin drugs. Not opioids. Does anybody know what the Latin root or Greek root oid means? Nobody's in health science? Oid means, no, well, it is in steroid. Oid means like. Like a metalloid is like a metal. A steroid is like something, I don't know. A humanoid is someone who's like a human. So we talk about opioids today because they are like opium or opiates. Opium is a flower that you scrape the side off of and then you smoke it, or I don't really know all the particulars, but somehow you melt it in a spoon and shoot it in your veins and it's heroin. That's what I'm talking about right now. And so the British own India. They're in northern India, and they're looking at these Indian guys just growing this opium and getting all sorts of silver. And because all the rich Chinese people love smoking opium, they're like, it's just a way I can relax, dude. They're smoking heroin. You've got to understand that this is heroin. This is like the 1990s movies you've watched about heroin. Okay? And so this discussion has got to take place. The discussion is this. Man, this is the British government. If there was only some way that we, the British government, could sell illegal drugs to China, we could really get a lot of that silver back. And then the other guy goes, yeah, that's crazy. Too bad we couldn't actually, hey, wait a minute. Why don't we, in fact, as the British government, sell illegal narcotics to the citizens of China for a profit? Somebody get the Queen on the phone. Ring, ring. Hello. Oh, no, the phone's not invented yet, but this is good for the scenario. Oh, that would be just divine, honey. If you would please sell them lots of drugs and let them get really high. And it's coming straight from the Queen. Yes, the Queen is the largest drug dealer in world history. Yes, okay, love you, bye. And then the Queen hangs up the phone. And now, I'm not kidding when I say the British government becomes a drug cartel. They force the Indians to grow the opium in India, and they take it and they sell it to China. England does not want to buy the crap. China does not want to buy the crap that England has until they have the good stuff. Okay. You know if something increases 2 times, it means it's doubled? Do the math on 23 times. Because the amount of opium being imported into China multiplied by 23 over 50 years. And what happens is, I shouldn't say the entire, a very large portion of the Qing dynasty, the government officials, gets really, really, really high. Like, so high they can't do their jobs. Do you also know what's happening in this time period? I don't know. The Taiping Rebellion. Hey, Gary, can we go take care of this Taiping Rebellion? Sure, dude. Let me eat some more Doritos and smoke drugs for 2 more years. Drugs. I love this because there's going to be a war. Here's the war. The Qing dynasty, finally the emperor says, hey guys, we can't really have you guys selling drugs to our citizens. Please stop. And China says, nah. Okay. And then there is 3 million pounds of heroin. Opium. Sorry, I get them mixed up. All right. A pound of opium would be about this size. And if the camera's not working, it's about like a brick in the wall. Okay. 3 million of these on a ship. The Qing dynasty says, stop. Don't bring any more drugs in or we will set the ship on fire. And England says, oh yeah? And the Qing dynasty sets the ship on fire. And I imagine there's a bunch of like drug addicts at the shore like going, like trying to breathe in all the opium smoke. Like, oh dude, no, it's free, man. Like something like that. But anyway, can you imagine? So anyway, here's what happens. England, look at the note. England is offended and wants China to pay them back for the illegal dope that China had just destroyed. So, England says, hey friends, you got to pay us back for that. And China says, no, you are selling drugs to our citizens. And England says, okay then, I guess we'll go to war. That's the Opium War. And guess what? The Qing dynasty doesn't stand a chance because they never industrialized.
So it's like the Boston Tea Party, just with dope.
It's like the Boston Tea Party, except a lot more high. Because Qing China never industrializes, because they're corrupt and they don't have to. It's very, 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 very easy for China to just ravage them. I'd like to draw a diagram for you of that. Okay. Here's a river. Okay. And of course, the river flows out, right? Okay. Here's the river. Here are Chinese soldiers on either side of the river. Okay. Here is a British steamship with machine guns on either side of it, and it's going to go north, and these people are going to then be dead. And that's the Opium War. There's 2 of them. You don't really have to know about 2 of them, but that's the way that goes. It's just a massacre. It's just brutal. Okay? So, here's what you need to know about Nanjing. Nothing good has ever happened to China in Nanjing. We talked about the rape of Nanjing at the start of this unit, or at the start of this chapter. This is the Treaty of Nanjing.
Which one came first?
The Treaty of Nanjing comes first because it's in the 1850s. the rape of Nanjing is in World War II. All right. So here's the Treaty of Nanjing. I can sum it up really quickly. Screwed China. Right? They just get, it's like the worst deal ever. Hey, that island off the coast of China called Hong Kong, it looks pretty rad. Can we have it? And China says no. And then England says, remember what we just did in the Opium Wars? Can we have it? And China says, yeah, but can you give it back to us in 99 years? And they do. Okay? It's going to open up these 5 ports for England to trade. Favorite note world history. Ladies and gentlemen, China had to pay England back for the drugs that they destroyed. Yes, sir. Which were illegal in the first place. And I can't explain to you guys that this is not like I'll show you. You saw the picture of the opium den, right? Here are some. This shows up on as stimulus all the time. These fellas. All right. So you can tell by the braids, right, that they're Qing Manchus, right? And this is the opium. And they're all laying down because they can't stand up because they're super high. Hey, this is good stuff. Where'd you get it? The Queen of England? You guys filming? It's very, 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 very strange. Okay? And then I wanted to show you this. I guess I should erase the screwed China off the board. That's not helping anybody, is it? So, imports and exports. Very good example of a stimulus that would be on a test. Okay. So, exports in $17 million worth of opium, $8 million worth of cotton. Imports that are coming, so this is coming out of China and to England, 13 million in tea, and then others. But here's the big thing I want you to notice. Because of opium, they have kind of started to balance out the trade imbalance. Does that make sense? Okay. So I like Strayer's little blurbs beside the pictures. Throughout the 19th century, opium imports created a massive addiction problem in China, as the photograph of an opium den from around 1900 suggests. Not until the early 20th century did the British prove willing to curtail the opium trade from their Indian colony. Okay. This is a map of the Second Opium War. And basically what it's showing you is, oh no, this is not a map of the Second Opium War. What happens in the Second Opium War is China is going to lose even more. China is going to lose Korea. They're going to lose any kind of control they have over Japan, Vietnam. Korea is going to go to Japan. Vietnam is going to go to France. My friends, I would definitely write down somewhere in your notes, if you don't have it, this phrase, spheres of influence. Okay? And what the spheres of influence are is European countries get a slice of China to control trade. Bad Sharpie marker. And so soon we'll talk about the scramble for Africa and like how each European country actually takes a country out of Africa, they carve it out, and they own it. That's not what happens in China. China still stays kind of independent, but it's not really independent. And so here's how you can see these spheres of influence. You can see Japan has here and here. Russia has here. Britain has all the way up the Yangtze River. By the way, that's the river that was like, na, 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 na. Did you write that down? French. The French are not on this map, but the French take Indochina. And then even there's like a little bit of Germany there. So, I don't know. We should have knew something was up when those Japanese people were so close to the Germans. Okay. So, China's in big trouble. We didn't industrialize. Let's try to fix it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get this one last emperor who's going to try to do a self-strengthening movement. That's what it's called. And we are going to try to modernize and we're going to try to industrialize. One thing they're going to do is 100 days of reform. Okay, where they're going to try to plant trees and start factories and get coal mines and bring in railroads. Okay, this is similar, and I know you don't know what this is yet. Similar to the Ottoman Tanzimat reforms. This camera might be a little fast. You know, they say the camera adds 10 ACT points. All right, baby, I got a 24. No, but seriously, the Taiping Rebellion is going to lead to China trying to get this done. But the conservatives say, no, we don't want to be dependent on foreign stuff. We want to keep our power, the status quo. And I'm really bad at spoiling things, but I'm just going to tell you that the self-strengthening movement is going to be too little, too late. Too little, too late. Is that a Drake song? I like Drake when he's like, nah, I don't like that. And then he's like, oh, yeah, that one. I like that one. Do you like that meme? Drake, he's from Canada. Okay. Everybody kind of okay with that? Okay. And now, for all those people taking that dumb test down there, they are missing the greatest lesson I've ever taught, or that could be taught. I take none of the credit here. Did you guys read about the Boxer Rebellion? Did that seem interesting? Let me tell you. So these people are called boxers because they are martial artists. They believed that they could punch bullets out of the air. Right? Now, I know they're not Jesus' little brother or anything, but they're trying. Okay? They would go around tearing up railroad tracks. They would hunt down and kill foreigners. Like, the vision I think of when I think of the Boxers is they're like creeping around like out in like the forest, like looking for like a wagon to come by, and they like come in and they're like, hey, there any people in here that aren't Chinese? And like some dude's like, oh, hello, I'm British. And then he's dead because he's a foreigner. And we do not need foreigners in China. Okay? They're coming in here. They're dealing drugs. They're rapists. Some of them, I'm sure, are good people. Okay? We built a wall for a reason. And the Boxers are going to clean this country up. Drain the swamp. They're trying to make China great again. And so the Boxers are running around killing people for fun. Like, I'm sure they're doing that really cool, like, grab your neck and, like, snap your neck. I'm sure that's what they do. Now, the Taiping Rebellion is fun. The Opium Wars are fun. But when you consider that it takes eight countries to defeat the Boxers, to defeat some crazy martial arts dudes who are punching bullets out of the air, you just gotta love it. Okay? It gets complicated, but you just need to know it takes 8 countries to beat the Boxers. And here's the best note about them. And I don't think Strayer actually calls them their entire name. But if everybody gets a 5 on the AP exam, I'm going to get a back tattoo. First, I'll have to shave my back. But after I shave it, I'm getting a back tattoo, and it's just going to say, the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists. And it's just going to have a picture of a Chinese dude, like, snapping some British dude's neck. And the British dude's going to have, like, an opium pipe in his hand. And then, like, Chuck Norris is going to come in and, like, kick the pipe out of his hand and say, China. That is recording, yes. Send it to whoever needs to. It is on YouTube. We're YouTube Live. Hey, YouTube Live. Oh, we should do that. No, it's not really live. I know, right? Oh, I could edit it. I just don't know how because I'm 40. It's almost time for class to be over. Did I finish? Oh, here's what you need to know. The outcome is we hate the Qing. We are nationalist Chinese, and we're ready to overthrow the Qing. And that's going to lead to Yuan Ming Qing Republic. Okay, remember to not like, not subscribe, slam that millenarianism button, and see you later, MrBrock.net.
Oh, no.
Oh, bye.
You should have set the camera in the back.